Welcome to the Wonder Women of Aviation podcast. I'm Sharon McDougle, former space worker with the Crew Escape Equipment Department, the beautiful orange spacesuit all the astronauts wore, and I'm an Air Force veteran. And as you can see, I'm an author.
I love it. Well, thank you for being on the Wonder Woman of Aviation, Sharon. I know we were talking briefly before. It's been like so difficult to track you down. You are just out of this world, literally.
Hopefully it keeps going that way.
I've seen, and I was, telling you earlier that I've been kind of following your journey ever since we met, which I'm surprised I didn't find you earlier, but
Right?
we met last year in Houston at the Wings Over Houston Air Show. And, my husband is into the space program. He's into space in general. And he's been kind of teaching me about that. So like we have been in love with what you do, what you are, and what you stand for. So I want to tell our viewers a little bit about who is
Sharon McDougle.
Sharon McDougle. There's so many layers to who and what you are. And we were saying, you're a woman, you're in the industry. So let's talk about Sharon. Sharon. I usually just say, like, if you were to describe yourself in an adjective.
Ooh, exciting.
Oh, I love it.
I'm exciting. Yes, I bring that energy.
You do. You have precious energy and that bright orange shirt, which goes hand in hand with what you did back in the day. So a little bit about yourself. You were in the Space Shuttle Crew Escape.
Yes. Crew Escape Equipment Department. Yes.
That's a tongue twister.
I know, it's a lot. We just call it CEE, the Crew Escape Equipment.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So whenever you see CEE, that's what it is.
So what exactly does that entail? Like, what is
that is exactly what it says. The crew that they use if they needed to escape from the rocket, from the space shuttle, from the orbiter. So I might call it orbiter. So I'm talking about space shuttle because that's what we called it. So they use it in case they have a loss of cabin pressure while they're, inside at the space shuttle. Automatically sense a change in cabin pressure and it would inflate and keep them safe inside until they got to a low enough altitude if they needed to bail out. But they would still be safe if they lost cabin pressure. The other reason they wear it is if in case they have a bailout scenario, they had to bail out from the space shuttle. They would land in water, hypothermia, right? And then the orange color so they can be seen easily, even though they'll have a one-person life raft, which is orange and yellow as well, and all kind of beacons and flashers and strobe lights and all kind of signal equipment. But, the beacons are going to go off if they bailed out, and the helicopter will probably be there like that anyway. So, but it's in case of an emergency. And my job actually started after the Challenger accident because they had stopped wearing pressure suits. Not that it will save a crew member if the rocket explodes. I know we saw with Columbia, but it's just another layer of safety in case they do come and have an emergency type situation.
Which, it totally makes sense because, my husband's an airshow pilot. You're well aware of that.
Yes.
And that flight suit is a big component of that element. And your job in itself is like, you truly are, that extra safeguard for those that go into space, which is pretty amazing. And I was like getting prepped for this interview. I'm like, from the color to the different components in the actual suit.
Yes.
The pressurization. I'm just like,
yes. And people look at it like it's a costume, but it's not. It's actually life-sustaining equipment.
Right.
Their lives can depend on this suit working properly. So we have to test, and retest over and over. And the astronauts don't have just their own suit. Right. They'll have that suit on one day, and the next day another astronaut may be wearing it. It's not just for that one astronaut. So that's why you have to be able to size it, adjust the arms, the legs, the waist, and things like that. They come in the regular sizes, small, medium, large, extra large. But then you have adjustments. Well, you said you read the book, but so it has adjustments in the arms and the waist and the legs. So some astronaut might have a little shorter arms or a little shorter legs. So we'd adjust it to fit that person as good as possible. And it's not made to form fit by no means. It looks kind of baggy when they have it on. It's not like the one I wear.
I like the one my husband wears.
It's not like that one.
It's form fitting. Which is amazing because I was just, like I said, I was reading into it. I'm like, holy cow. And one thing I didn't know, and I wanted to ask you personally, is the hyperbaric chamber portion of it too. So
that's when I was in the Air Force.
Okay.
My Air Force specialty codes called AFSC. My job was to work with the hyperbaric and hyperbaric chambers. But by being stationed at Beale Air Force Base, where the SR-71 and U-2s were located, that was an extra duty to work with the pressure suits, the aerospace physiology side of it.
Okay.
So I went to school, tech school, after I got out of boot camp, and I went in right after I graduated high school. So no college degree or anything. I did all of this without a college degree. Just good old training and hard work.
Right.
And the chambers, we learned the chambers first. We didn't learn about the suits until we got to our base. And that's when you got on the job training. That's why I always tell people, nobody, anybody can be trained. If they're trainable and got a little sense, you can be trained to be a spacesuit technician. It's not like you're coming out the womb being a spacesuit technician. And where else are you going to get experience, right?
Right, on the job.
Besides the military or NASA.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unique, specific field that not
exactly
aware of. So I want to take it back, because you said you were in the Air Force. So
yes,
this is a field that, did you always want to be in the Air Force? Like, how did that come about?
It's a great story. Glad you asked. So I come from a family. I was number 9 of 12 children. And I lost both my parents at a very young age. By the time I was in the 2nd grade, I had lost both my parents. So I had to live with my sister and her family. And, so things were different. I didn't have my mom to cuddle me. And I was like, I had to grow up overnight type of situation. So I made it to high school. And I was like, what am I going to do? I don't have money to go to college. I don't know what I'm going to do. And Sergeant Bud Rucker, my knight in shining armor, came and spoke to our senior class. I think it was around October, November, because I hadn't turned 18 yet. And he told us about the Air Force, and my eyes just got big. And he was like, oh, we'll pay for your schooling, and you can travel the world. You'll have a great job. It just made it sound like a fairy tale. I was like, I raised my hand in class that day, girl. I mean, in the auditorium, I was like, I want to sign up right now. He's like, you can't sign up right now.
You gotta wait.
I was ready to leave. I'm from a small town. I love my hometown, Moss Point, Mississippi. But I knew there was more out there for me, and I need to go live life and see what's going on. I couldn't stay there my whole life. No, it wasn't enough opportunities there,
Right.
And so, well, my 18th birthday that February, I just had a birthday, February 23rd, I went down to the recruiting office and I enlisted into the Air Force. I took the test and, did all that and got a really good scores on the test, which is what afforded me to get such a great job, because they use that test to decide where they're going to place you.
Ah, okay.
And so that's how it was. Never any moment where I was like, oh man, I can't wait to graduate so I can go in the Air Force. I've always wanted to do this. It was just the opportunity came along at the right time. Right. And I jumped on it. I had no idea what aerospace physiology was, mind you. When they said that's going to be your job, I was just like, I don't care. I'm ready to go. I'll learn whatever it is. Let's go.
Whatever it is, whatever it entails.
Yeah, I'm going. I'm in there. I'm all in.
And that's what I love about you. You've been a go-getter. It doesn't seem like you let anything stand in your way, which is inspiration.
No, ma'am.
And that's something that I definitely want to educate our people that are listening. Like they find themselves kind of at a loss. There's different options out there. And one thing that I think you did, you don't have to be a pilot to get into the Air Force or into these careers. There's so many opportunities out there.
Exactly. It's so many behind the scene jobs. I mean, mind you, our job was kind of upfront because we were always with the crew members, the pilots and the astronauts. We were always right there, but we were still hidden in plain sight. People still didn't pay attention to us. It's like all they saw was the astronaut. So nobody ever asked who was the other person in the picture, So that's okay, but that's okay. I mean, because we were doing our jobs. We weren't there to be trying to get any kind of spotlight or anything. We were doing our jobs. Getting the picture, that's great. And sometimes I would finagle my way in a picture.
That's me. and you had some amazing pictures. I think one of the pictures that with Dr. Mae Jemison.
Yes, girl. That was a highlight of the career. One of the highlights, because I had a lot of great times, but that definitely, and it was so wonderful because I decided to get out the Air Force after 2 terms. So I served 7 years. Okay. And when I got out, I struggled. I couldn't find a job because all I've done my whole adult life was be in the Air Force. Right. And you weren't truly an adult, because you're living on base for free. You're eating in the chow hall. You go to work. It's not that far. Only thing I was paying for is my car. That's the only thing I was paying for. Right. We had cable and everything. And, so you hadn't really been an adult. And you don't realize that until you leave and go live in the real world.
Yeah. We've done some.
You got all these bills. And so I couldn't find a job. Nobody would hire me. And I thought, I am awesome. I worked with the SR-71 pilots. They're gonna be lined up to hire me. They wouldn't even hire you full time because they didn't want to give you benefits. So I had 3 part-time jobs at the age of 26. I worked in a department store. I think it was called Wine Stocks, putting price tags on clothes, like in the basement somewhere. So it felt like child slave labor.
Compared to the answers.
I did that, yeah, but they'll give you like 4 to 6 hours. They wouldn't give you 8 hours. They didn't want to hire you full time. Then I would work Office Depot stocking shelves for about 4 hours, and then at night I would clean an office building. Oh. And I didn't have my own place, so I had to sleep on my friend's Lisa's. I had to sleep on her futon. Thank goodness she lived in the area, so she allowed me to stay with her. And I gave her a little bit of what whenever I got, I didn't have any benefits or anything. And I'm used to just being fancy free in the Air Force.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was thinking about going back in right at the 6 month part, at the 6 month point, when one of my friends, Ray Villalobos, who was already out here in Houston working with the space program, girl, I thank him to this day. He tracked me down because this is before Google and Facebook and, it was just phone books. He remembered my roommate's name from the Air Force because I didn't have my own phone or nothing. We didn't have, cell phones weren't back then. Yeah. He called, found her name, called, and I just happened to be home at her place. Wow. And said, Sharon, they have an immediate opening doing the exact same thing we did in the Air Force.
Wow.
And that girl, nothing but angels all around me. And so he had already prepped them. And there was several other guys already there that was from my same unit in the Air Force. And he said, just call this number and talk to the supervisor. So I called thinking it's going to be like an interview. They're going to fly me out and do an interview and all this. It was just like a cursory, like, hey, how you doing? Come out when you're ready.
Wow.
It was just that easy. Because my friend, and that's why I tell kids, you never know who's going to be that one to be your sponsor. Because that's exactly what he was. He sponsored me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He could have called anybody else that was in the Air Force in our unit that has separated and offered them that job. But he remembered me and my work ethic. And of course, we were friends and we traveled some while he was there. Right. And we worked in the O2, it's called the O2 unit, the oxygen unit, where we worked on the components and stuff. So his last couple of years there, we had got kind of close. But he saw what a hard worker I was and how good I was at what I did. Right. So you're not going to bring nobody that sucks to your job, right? So, so that's another reason. Great. So I hit the floor running when I got there. So I got here in 1990 and started going. And then 1991, Dr. Mae Jemison gets to her mission STS-47. It was meant to be.
Wow.
It's like they waited for me to get here before they assigned her.
And that's one thing.
And she went up in 1992. So I got assigned to her, helped train and work with her all the way up until launch. And I was there when she landed to get her off of the orbiter too. So I was with her the whole time, so we both got to make history. It was awesome. And that mission also had the first Japanese on the space shuttle, and it had the first married couple, as well as the first Black woman. So it had a lot of different things going on, a lot of firsts.
And that's what I love. That's why I wanted to reach out for, not only Black History Month, but Women's History. Like you were a pioneer in the industry. I mean, one thing I learned that you were one of the first
Black crew escape equipment tech, period.
Okay, period. I wasn't sure if it was a male.
But more came later, but no other Black women though. So I was the only Black woman the whole time.
And how serendipitous to have both of you be working together. That was just like, again, the stars were aligned.
When I heard that the first Black woman was going up, I was like, I'm gonna be on that flight, even though I had only been there a year when she got assigned. So easily, if you would have called me like 6 months later, I wouldn't have been there long enough to be assigned to the mission. Right. So it just, there was just all, like I said, all the stars aligned. It was just perfect. That I was there. And, I already knew the stuff. I just had to get used to the way they did it here in the civilian world. That was the only difference. It was the same, everything, components, the suit, it was all, I could do it blindfolded.
That is, it sounds like what you did in the Air Force obviously prepared you for your role.
Same thing. Most definitely. I got all that great training in the Air Force and it set me up for success. So I could just step right into that position.
That was amazing. I was like, is it that easy?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying, if you got a little comprehension, a basic comprehension level, could turn a screwdriver, I could train you to work on that suit.
That is.
I took several people. A young kid that was, I think he was 18, had only worked with his father fixing like lawnmowers and stuff. He turned out to be a great suit tech. Brought him right on in there. And that's what I tell managers too. Don't just go by the HR mess where they got the little keywords and all this. Look at those people's resumes, bring them in, talk to them face to face. You miss out on so many good people playing that little HR game, and letting them just be the one to pick because the keywords didn't pop out. You miss out on so many. I mean, I would have been a prime example if they were just passed over me. So I'm just like, just give people a chance. Give people a chance. If you get in a position where you can hire people and bring people in, do that. And I made it so much more diverse when I became manager. I did. I made sure I went and hired Latina and Black people because it was basically when I got there, it was all white except for my friend he was originally from Peru.
Okay.
So if it wasn't for him, I'd probably still be out in California struggling, to be honest. I don't know why it didn't even click for me to check with the space program. You know what I'm saying? It didn't even click. And I'm sure eventually it probably would have. And I heard that they actually went out and recruited people, but I was on temporary duty, I guess, when they did it. I wasn't there when they came out, or I definitely would have looked at it. So yeah, it just.
That's interesting. And you did mention, and that's one thing that I like to advocate, being a female in aviation myself, and that's why my podcast is to inform, not only girls, but women in aviation, that there's so many roles. And you mentioned a sponsor, and that's one thing that I learned late in my career. Like, having a sponsor is very important to at least open up to have someone to advocate.
Exactly.
I never knew that, and I'm telling everyone, get a sponsor. They're like, what?
Yeah.
So
it's not even a formal thing like get a sponsor. It's like somebody that's speaking up to you when you're not in that room.
Right.
They believe in you and know that you're good at what you do, and they're gonna put your name in that room when you're not there.
Exactly.
And make sure you hear about opportunities. Invite you to events where it might be something that's helpful to you. That's a sponsor.
Right.
Yeah. I just don't want people to try to formalize it too much, where they feel like they gotta fill out a form to be a sponsor or something. It's somebody that's gonna help you.
Right. Reach out and be like, hey, can you help me? And that's what I've been doing in my own career, like goals.
Yeah.
And, it's never too late in the game. I'm kind of in the later part of my career, but that's something that I always tell people, especially girls coming into the industry, young women coming into the aviation industry, like, well, I don't want to be a pilot. Well, there's so many other opportunities. Just
so many. Someone
to actually show you the ropes, kind of speak on your behalf, which I think is great. And that's why I love doing this podcast, because I meet so many women and I'm like,
just crazy. And another thing I learned once I got here is the way the space program titles different things may not match exactly what it is. When I first started, the job listed in the requisition, like online for you to put in for it, it said electromechanical technician. Who would have thought that's a suit tech? I'm saying I wouldn't even read it anymore. So that's why I tell people, make sure you read it, because there might be something in there that fits you. Don't have to be everything. Just put in. You never know. They might be that person like me that'll give you a chance just because you put in for it. So just put in for stuff. Girl, when I read that, I'm like, what's it? Like, I thought it was an electrician or something. Electromechanical. They's like, that's what your title is. I'm like, electromechanical technician? Wow. I'm not doing nothing.
That is, well, I mean, that kind of, gets me thinking, like, was there ever a moment in your career, because you were working with these big badass planes, like that you felt
never like, girl. I walked in there my first day, 18 years old, right out of tech school boot camp, and walked in there like I owned the place. And that was just my spirit, my attitude, and everybody kind of gravitates towards that. They're like, okay, she knows what she do. She ain't scared. She a little bit of thing, because I was about 100 pounds wet then, and at 18. Like, it's scared. I found out later that some of the guys were a little scared. It was like, oh my goodness, she's just a lot.
Right. But it's like you're exuding that confidence, and I think that's
exactly. Like, didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't even looked at a suit yet. But I came in there like, yeah, let's get it. Who's training me?
And I think that's one thing that I'm actually learning it, as well as I talk to more and more women. Like, the main thing is, like, they didn't think that they could do this. I mean, I hear this from, like, I interview a lot of air show female pilots. They're like, women, we didn't think we could fly. It's like, we didn't. And that's
because things were kept from women so long, that's why. So they feel like all I can do is just, be having babies and cooking for my husband. But no, it's just so much. I mean, even in like I said, it's so many jobs that don't require a college degree. Like I said, suit tech is one of the main ones that people, and I have never heard of a suit tech. I'm like, what in the world?
I didn't know until I met you. I'm like,
right.
All this stuff like this.
They figure the astronauts just magically dive into the suits and strap themselves in and go. Right. It's a lot more detailed. And then they also think that we just suit them up for launch and that's it. And we just go home and don't work no more until the next launch. Like
Right.
it's like 4 or 5 crews in training at one time. And so they start a year prior to launch training. And they do approximately like 30 training events where they actually get suited up and take, because they got to get used to this because we're not going to be in space to do it for them, you know? So they're going to have to help each other take the suits off and put them on. And then they're moving, they're floating. So you got that aspect of it while you're trying to put it on.
You don't think about all these different elements. I was just going to ask,
Yeah.
what are some like facts that the general public does not know? I know you mentioned some of them briefly, and me,
Yeah.
I know the
Yeah.
facts, but
Yeah.
like, what are some facts about the suit that you can share about that, would kind of blow our mind? Like, oh, I didn't think of that.
Okay. They have a breathing regulator, which is inside the suit back in the neck area. And then once you put the helmet on, it goes up through the neck ring, and then the oxygen comes right down. It's called a spray bar right across the top of the inside of the helmet. It's black, so you can't really see. It has a bunch of little holes in it, so the oxygen only comes down right in your face because that's the only place you breathe. People thinking, oh, oxygen going all through their body. It's like, no, they're right here.
Right.
They have a neck seal, right? So that's sealed off because it's the side of their neck and it's kind of stretchy. I forgot the material, God dog it, but it's kind of like rubbery, and
Okay.
it's sealed to their neck. Exhalation valve, so when they exhale, it goes down into the suit. So you don't have carbon monoxide. So now they just got oxygen right up in here. And they also have emergency oxygen bottles. Okay, on the suit, only thing you guys usually see them in is the suit and the boots,
Right.
and they're waving, getting in the van, right?
Helmet.
So yeah, so the helmet is already bagged up and carried out. It's gonna be on the Astro van, that silver van.
Huh.
It's gonna ride out with them. Their harness assembly and parachute is already out at the orbiter. The harness is lying in the white room, which is the room right before they get inside the orbiter. They stop there, they put on their harness assembly. The harness assembly houses the emergency oxygen bottles, and it has a green apple to pull if you need that if they got in a bailout situation. And it's about 10 minutes of oxygen. It has 16 emergency drinking water packs strapped onto the back of the harness. And they're like little Capri Sun packs. They're little, but it's 16 of them and they're flat. So, And then you have the life preserver unit, which goes around their body. So if they did bail out and hit the water, they would automatically inflate to keep their head up out the water. So think of water wings, it inflates all around them. And so they would do that. And then they have the parachutes lying in the seat when they get into the orbiter. So they would lie down, and they're lying on their backs for about 3 hours before they launch, which is why they wear the diaper.
Yeah.
Because once they get strapped in, it's no getting up running to the restroom. You got your diaper for that. So that's something people probably don't think about, that, oh, they wear diapers. That's why they wear it, because they're in the suit so long before they actually launch.
Right. I mean, these are all things that I'm like, and I think you mentioned, you're like, whatever they do, they take it up there with them.
Exactly. They're gonna take it right with them, and I'm not gonna be there to clean it for you. So you're gonna wear that stinky suit coming back home.
Wow. I was like, these are fun facts. Like,
Yeah.
what does it take to suit someone up? Like,
Well, about 5 minutes. It doesn't take long to put the suit on them.
oh,
Yeah. So it's like leg, arm, pop your head through, stand up, zip.
okay,
Let's get the helmet and gloves on, and let me test you before you leave here. And
okay,
then when they get strapped in, they get tested again to make sure the suit still pressurizes, make sure they didn't bump into anything or a nail or anything sticking out somewhere. So they get tested again, and we do have spare equipment. So
okay.
if something did happen, we have that just in case.
It
Mm-hmm.
you need a technician because it weighs so much, correct?
The
Like,
suit by itself really doesn't weigh a lot. It's probably about 30 pounds. It's the harness and when you add the harness and the parachute. The parachute is really a lot of the weight.
oh
So it
yeah,
ends up being about 90 pounds, but they're not walking around and all that stuff.
with the parachute, yeah. Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
my husband has one for when he does aerobatics too, and I was like, I
Yeah.
can hold this. I'm like, I can't hold this. This is
Yeah. Then
parachute.
it has the one person life right at the bottom of the parachute. So that adds even more, a little extra weight.
Wow, these are
Yeah.
all interesting facts.
Yeah.
Which
And they wear special underwear
on top of it,
under the suit. They
oh,
put the diaper on first, then they put on their special underwear, and it's long johns,
really?
had like Patagonia long johns, but it has this real thin tubing sewn all throughout the underwear, the pants and the bottoms.
Okay,
So this extra super duper 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 cold water runs through this, so it's right against their skin, because they don't have regular AC like we have in our house,
okay.
while they're in the orbiter. So that's how they keep cool. And it gets really cold, so a lot of them only wear the top. They don't even wear the bottoms. The top and bottoms can hook together for people that are really hot, but
Right.
they do have adjustments where they can make it not so cold. They can turn it off
they can regulate it.
No more. Yeah, yeah.
You don't even think of the external component, like the heat, like
yeah. And you know, you're in Florida, lying on your back for 3 hours inside the rocket, girl.
weight loss.
Yeah. Using the diaper, the cooling, and everything else.
It sounds very glamorous.
yeah. And we actually had a lot of people, well, man, some of the men had a little mental thing with the diaper. You know, it's like, man, and nobody's gonna see it. You're in a bulky suit, first of all.
Right.
But just you've been trained your whole life not to go on yourself, you know.
Right.
So it's kind of hard. So I had some of the guys take the diaper home. I tell them to take it home, put it on, and lie in the bathtub to simulate like you're lying in the rocket, and just push. Try to use it. Try to get used to it, you know. And folks with larger bladders, they can put an insert in, kind of like a maxi pad type situation. If they had, you know, somebody that has a larger bladder. Some people I had to tape around the top of the diaper for them because remember they're lying on their back. So if they use it, it could probably come up and come out. So little things like that, you know.
These are things you do not think about.
Yeah, yeah. I done braided a many women's hair for them, you know, to kind of tuck it away inside. So when they put their communications cap on, called a Snoopy cap, and then put the helmet on, you don't want it getting caught, you know, want your hair getting caught up in all that. Now, when they get in space and take all this stuff off, you know, it takes only 8 minutes, approximately 8 minutes to get to space. Okay. They take all that equipment off and pack it up until it's time for them to come back home. And they put on their shorts, t-shirts, hair flying around.
Crazy. These are, I'm fascinated. Like lately, I've just been enamored with space and just the different components, different stories. And that's what I love. The storytelling of what goes on in just the whole space program, which I'm looking at your book. Speaking of storytelling, you have a children's book, which I absolutely love. It's so cute. It's
I love it.
Launch with Shay.
Yeah, see?
I love it. And the one thing that I absolutely loved is, you know, you have a shtick that you also do. You have your, you know, your helmet that you have the kids wear. Can you talk a little bit more about Suit Up for Launch with Shay?
Of course. Well, I always wanted to write a children's book, but while I was working there, I started thinking it might be too much red tape involved, or, you know, they might tell me I can't say this or say that, you know, and so I just kind of put it off to the side. And then, of course, life, and you forget about it. And then it came back around again, and then COVID hit, right? Oh. And I had just gone to Detroit and met this amazing young lady named Natasha Lee. And she asked me, and her company's called Make Your Dreams Come True. She's like, Sharon, what's some of your dreams? And I said, one was to write a children's book and also to write my own biography too. And I forgot what the other thing was I told her. I can always forget the other thing because the book was the big thing for me. But she asked me something else. I just can't remember. Anyway, she connected me with an author already written 14 children's books to kind of mentor me along the way. So anytime I had questions, I could call. Her name is Annette. 14 books, girl. 14. And she has a little bear. I can't think of his name. I think it's Kobe. It's a little bear thing that you can record. You're like a grandma can record reading a book and send it to the kid. And this little blanket bear, koala bear, now you can hear their voice, you know. So it's so cute. Or even like you could have a parent that might be, you know, in prison or something. You know, you can get their voice and send it to the kid or whatever. I mean, any situation where you want to hear somebody's voice that you like, and you know, you're reading the kid. And she also has bed sheets, girl. This girl is amazing. And then Smith, y'all check her out. It's Miss Annie's Literary Core, I think is the name of her. Mrs. Annie Books. But Annette Smith. 14 books. I can't say that enough. That's amazing.
I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, check her out. And then she has sheets. They're called sheet tales. So she has a whole book on the kids' bed sheets. Wow. The whole book. Yeah, amazing. I was like, girl, awesome. Yeah, but she helped me a lot. She pointed me in the right direction as far as, you know, because I self-published. Yeah. And so if y'all want the book, go to my website. You know, don't go to Amazon because I don't know if anybody knows that's not in the author world, but when you order through Amazon, the author only gets little pennies off of the book. Yeah. So if you order from my website, which is my name, SharonMcDougle.com, then I can autograph it as well. So you just put the information who you want me to sign it to and stuff. But yeah, I always wanted to write a book. And then I loved my job so much, girl. I loved my job. I still do. Like I still work there. And I used to always go out to schools and community events and take an actual real suit and pressurize, let the kids take pictures with it and, you know, see them pique their interest. Maybe they'll want to work with the space program somewhere, not necessarily a suit tech, but it may pique their interest to be like, hey, I want to be an engineer or whatever, you know. And so I would always do that because, like I said, I love my job, even in the Air Force. I thought that was the best job ever. And then I got to work here, you know.
Right.
And so I said, you know what? I want to leave my legacy, and I think a children's book. And I always read to children. I always did volunteer work, and I would dress up in costume. I would actually have my costume first, and then pick a book that go with my costume.
I love that idea. I
I
dress.
love dressing up in costume and the little kids' faces. Girl, I get all on the floor with them and just have a good time and try to have an activity or something too, you know, to connect with the book. So, and that's another thing. I'm like, I'm reading everybody else's book. I need to go ahead and write my book. And like I said, COVID made all of us sit down. A lot of us wrote books during COVID.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah. So it only took an hour because it's what I did for almost 30 years, you know?
But you
I
know,
just put it in a mother-daughter conversation. And the thing that took the longest was trying to get it illustrated.
right.
So anybody that's writing a book, if you can illustrate yourself or know somebody that's right there that you can trust, it's hard getting illustrators.
Oh,
She was my third one, Christy Pimenta. And I never met her in person, only online. And she lives in Portugal. And she did a fantastic job. I love the illustrations she did for my book.
oh my
I
gosh.
mean, I love them. And I went through two other illustrators before her, and they made it like halfway through, girl. And then they was like, "Oh, I'm too busy or whatever." I'm like, "Oh my, I ain't gonna never get my book out."
I know. I have been through that. Nobody talks about the
Yes,
writing, creating process. Like it's growing pains.
yes. Now, like I said, writing no problem. I actually wrote it on a tablet, some paper with an actual pencil. I wrote it like that. I didn't even type it until it was time for me to send it to the young lady to give her an idea of what I needed. You know, I sent her pictures of the real suit and stuff. I didn't want it to be realistic like that, but real enough where you could kind of see what's going on, you know,
And that's what
and
I
make it more fun for the kids. You notice I didn't get all technical talking about millimeters of mercury and PSI. And no, I made it fun, just like when I used to talk to the kids when I went out to the schools.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically a story of just you kind of write it for that
Break
demographic.
it down for the kids to understand. But I have many parents that give me feedback like, wow, I know that. That is so. They say they enjoy reading it to the kids. They like it. And usually when I'm doing the readings live, the parents are like have more questions than the children. They be like, wow, that is pretty cool. I had no idea. I'm like, yeah,
What I
it's not a
love,
costume.
I mean, you know, STEM is important as well, but I've been pushing
Yes,
STEAM, which is that art
exactly.
portion of it. And
Yep,
one thing that you do, like what I said I love is that dressing up, like having them get into the costume because that's
exactly.
a form of self-expression. I'm familiar with myself when I do my Wonder Woman of, you know, aviation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Feel
So
and
that's how character. And we used to have to wear the orange jumpsuit when we suited up the astronauts.
oh, you
And then
did?
it changed to another color because they didn't want us to be so close to the colors of the astronaut. But yeah, if you notice in the picture with May, I had on the orange jumpsuit.
Yes, yes.
So that's what we used to wear. So and it was for the crew members so they can see us easy. They know who their suit tech was easy in a crowd, you know, because there'd be a bunch of people around. And they'd
Great.
be like, oh, there's suit tech. They got on orange, you know. But somebody decided, oh no, they need to wear something else, some other color. So
No.
that's what happened. And so, but Shay, you know, since her character wears the little orange suits, that's why I wear it. And then I bring the little suits with me so the kids can try on the suit and the helmet and they're man.
Amazing.
I love it.
You do is advocating for, you know, STEAM, STEM, empowering,
Yes.
being a pioneer. There's so many, like I said, you're a woman of many layers.
Yes.
Amazing. And we talked about hidden figures, and I, you know, some people know what hidden figures are, but for those
Yeah.
that don't know what a hidden figure is, can you explain what it is?
Yes. It's somebody that's done the work and they're in the background. And a lot of times somebody else is taking credit for my definition of it. And I'm glad you mentioned Hidden Figures because when the movie came out in 2017, I had never heard of those women. And I had been working out there for 22 years.
Wow.
Not a PowerPoint, not a plaque on the wall, nothing. And so I thought it was fictional when I first saw it being advertised. And then they was like, no, that's real women. I'm like, do you know how many people they could have inspired to work with the space program if we would have known? You
Exactly.
know, because I know it's a cliche, but if you see somebody that looks like you doing, you'd be like, okay, I could do that too. But
Yes,
they had these women literally in a basement calling them computers.
that
And
is
I know it's plenty others out there, but that is what, and see, I didn't consider myself hidden because I was in pictures and video clips and stuff with the astronauts. So I wasn't considering myself. And then when that movie came out, I'm like, you know what? I
yeah.
might need to reach out and tell my story. And I reached out to a local, my hometown newspaper back in Mississippi. Tyler Carter was the journalist's name at the time for the Mississippi Press. And I was like, yeah, go look at the picture. And he Googled it and he looked at the picture. He's like, oh, that's you. Oh my God. In the picture with the.
You do have an amazing story to tell. Like, that's you.
Wrote the story. It just happened to be, social media is here now and it just grew legs. But that's what inspired me to tell my story. I would still been sitting here thinking everybody know what I did because I'm in pictures.
Right. No.
Nobody knew. We live here in Space City, so we're thinking, it's no big deal because that's what we do.
No, there's people outside of Space City that
really. Yeah, but you're just thinking everybody knows. I'm in pictures. Look, I'm in pictures everywhere.
Right. No, and that's great that you're telling yourself. You have to tell. You kind of have to tell on yourself. You're like,
hey. Yeah. And I tell girls all the time, don't be afraid to brag. You need to let people know what you know and what you've done, and don't be shrinking yourself down because somebody else is scared of your light.
Right.
Blind them.
Oh yeah.
Pat yourself, toot your horn, do what you got to do. Because men don't have no problem doing it.
And there's actually a quote from an airshow pilot, Melanie Estes. I think I'm saying her name right, but she's an airshow pilot, and she's like, if the door doesn't open for you, then you climb through that window.
Thank you. Like, girl, kick it down.
Yeah, thank you. I was like, and these are the stories that I want to continue to tell. Yeah. And I want to thank you for being on the Wonder Woman Aviation.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you for wanting to speak to me. I appreciate it.
Chasing you down and hunting you down.
I'm so glad I met you guys that night. I almost didn't even come to the little get together beforehand.
Amazing.
I'm so glad I did.
And my husband, I'm telling you, he is just in love. He's like, I love Shay. She's
and I still didn't get to see his plane before the air show was over either.
You're definitely going to see us at an air show. So I'm looking at the questions. So I was asking him, do you have any questions for Shay? Like, he sent me a whole thing.
Okay,
so he's obsessed, like I said, with the SR-71. He's been reading.
I'll answer what I can because I didn't actually work on the plane as a mechanic or nothing. So
right, but I'm sure there's some certain facts about it. So let me just flip it. Then, is there anything, a special story or something that is significant for you, or a most memorable moment while working on this or with the SR-71 that you can share, and I can let my husband hear?
Well, I was very fortunate to be able to get in and out of that aircraft almost daily for 7 years. I mean, when people say he's all fascinated with it. It's so many people like that. Right. And you don't even think about it that way because it was just your job to get inside. I would have to get inside and load the aircraft before I went and suited up the crew member. So I would have to put their survival seat kit, which held, like I said, survival equipment inside of it. And then it had a cushion on top for them to sit on. And then I would have to load their parachute into the aircraft. And so I would go back and suit up the pilots, test them out, and then drive them out to the flight line to the aircraft, walk them up. It's called a how down, this tall ladder with the platform. Walk them up that ladder, let them step into the cockpit, and then I would lie down on the platform. And when I have to hook up the spurs, this is something he probably didn't know. They wore spurs on their boots, not the cowboy kind, but similar. That's why they would call spurs.
Okay.
Because they had this ball and cable inside on the floor, one for each foot. And you would have to hook those spurs up to that ball and cable. And that was in case they had to bail out, it'll automatically retract their legs back so they don't chop their legs off when they eject out the back. You'd be flailing and stuff.
Yeah.
So it would lock their legs back, pull their legs back for them. So when they ejected, it didn't get chopped off. Their legs didn't get chopped off.
That is interesting. Yeah, we've been watching documentaries. I'm like, that is a fast airplane.
Yes. Yes, with Mach 3, girl. What did it do? Coast to coast, I think like an hour and a half or something.
Yeah, that's what I was just like,
it's crazy.
I'm like,
and then all of the leaking, it would take off. The KC-135 tanker is what refueled it. It would take off hours before the SR-71. Hours, because when the SR took off, it was like right there. So they had to take off hours to get ahead of it because they would have to refuel once it took off. And I actually got to lie down in the back of the 135 with the guy while he was operating the arm to hook into the SR-71, the top of it, like a little blowhole at the top, hook into it you know how precise you got to be to do that while both aircraft are flying? Right. And he's dropping that long pole down in there and refueling the aircraft.
Seen some videos.
But SR don't even be able to slow down enough to do it too, Right. Crazy.
That is.
The SR pilot in the tent while we were there.
Yes.
Terry Pappas.
Yeah, so he
Mhm.
did buy Terry Paps's book. He received it not too long ago. He's like, I'm taking my book with me. So it's like he is just enamored. He's always like, that's
Yeah,
one.
it's an easy read too. I read it real quick. It's
Yeah.
easy.
And
Hmm.
again, stories that if I had not have gone into the Legends and Heroes tents,
Yes.
I would have met
I
Terry.
was so happy when y'all walked in.
Like, these are people that we need to like. I mean,
Right?
needs to
And
know.
they gave me such great feedback. They were so nice. Cause Terry even said, "Oh, you brought so much joy to the tent." Cause something for kids and not just a bunch of old guys sitting around signing their book.
About that the orange suit.
Yep, yep. And here I am. Hey. And I could thank oh, I forgot her name. But it's United right here. Hold on. I can tell you who they. I got the little remember the little poster? I got it laying right here.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, it is
just was texting her.
Lila Holly and Ashley Booker Knight is actually Ashley is the one that actually invited me to be a part of it. But I was at the table with both of those ladies.
Yes, I remember seeing their setup, and it was amazing what they were doing too.
Yeah, so I had a ball, and that's right up my alley. I love, like I said, even the grown-ups
Yeah,
get like, oh, let me put the helmet on.
yeah, we did. We have a picture. I'm going to post that picture on because I have video and audio. So I'm going to put the picture of my husband Patrick with the helmet, and then
Yes.
that was
Yeah, I had such a great time. And for it to be 2 days also, so I really had fun.
yeah. Hopefully, we'll see you again this year at Houston.
I hope so too.
Um,
Hopefully they invite me back. If not, I'm gonna have to find my way to get in there on my own.
yeah, exactly. So if people want to book you for, you do a lot
Yes,
of events, is that something that
yes,
can they?
yes. Go to my website, SharonCaplesMcDougle.com. It's on the title of it's the top of my book. And you can book me for a regular speaking engagement, like for grown-ups, not reading my book, or you can book me to come and read my book to somebody, to some kids or Girl Scout troop or whatever. So you can book me either way, or to do both. I've had somebody book me I did my speaking, keynote, and then I went over in the corner with the kids and I read my book to them and had my little table set up and stuff. So,
That is
but of course the kids one's more fun. But I will. I actually just did a speaking engagement in November for Veterans Day. So that's another way I get booked for veterans events. So I got the veteran thing, the space thing, the Black woman thing. I can
everything.
get booked for all kind of stuff.
I know year round, which is amazing.
Yes, I cover a lot of check off a lot of boxes.
I love it. Well, I have a fun question before I let you go.
Yes.
Another question, but this is a fun question. So space.
Mhm.
If you were picked a special program to go into space and you had maybe a day, 24 hours to pack, what would you bring with you into space?
Chapstick and eyeliner. And eye drops. And eye drops. Because I have dry eyes, but I love eyeliner because it make my eyes pop. And I gotta have some chapstick. I don't even have to have lipstick. I gotta have chapstick though. I get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I put chapstick on. Because they just feel dry. They just feel dry.
Those are
So
very
those three things for sure. Because somebody asked something similar to that about if you stranded on a desert island, what would you keep or something?
oh,
And chapstick gonna be one of the number one things. The island I wouldn't care about eyeliner because you're gonna be sweating and stuff.
I was gonna say like to put that on your eye
But
drop.
chapstick for sure. And if I'm on the island, of course, I said a lighter or some matches or something. But just to go to space, girl, put me in my suit, give me my chapstick and my eyeliner. Let's go.
Eye drops, which are gonna be floating around the little drops.
Girl, I drop. I know you can't do that up there.
Trying to catch them.
Following it around like how they play with their food. That's how I'll be following the eye drops trying to get it.
It'd be a game. That'd be
Yes,
so.
yes. But I would definitely go if I had the opportunity to. People say, "Would you go?" I was like, "Shoot, yeah, I go." So Bezos and Galactic Version dude, whoever,
Yeah,
former suit tech want to go.
pick her. She's the next woman that needs to go to space.
Yeah, I've done my time. I need to be able to go to space. I would love to in a minute.
I would too, but I don't know.
Shoot, for real.
Get
Now,
me.
now, any of Patrick's questions? You
Um,
had questions? Yeah,
yes,
are there anything pertaining to the suited part or
it was very specific to, let's see, I know he's
just the plane itself?
to the SR-71, and these are like, why was it called the Habu? Why did they call
That's a Japan thing. Habu. It's the snake, the black snake, like the cobra kind of
Oh,
Habu. Yeah, and then they had Skunk Works, and then they had Blackbird. So it had several names.
Oh, it had several names. Oh, I did not
Mm-hmm.
know that. Okay.
Skunk Works, I think, is from the company that actually made it. Skunk Works. I want to say, I think that's the company that actually made it.
Okay.
Called it had the nickname of Skunk Works.
That is
But I saw some that had the little skunk painted on the tail of the SR-71. You know how they had two little things sticking up in the back? I
uh,
saw the skunks painted on them before.
okay. And I know he's probably gonna kill me if I don't ask the space question. So I'm trying to think. I know he's in love with like the whole concept. So is there any, I guess, story like with NASA that's like you can share that is the most intriguing? I mean, you've probably been in a lot of situations.
Well, I don't know if people realize that when they go to space, they actually grow a couple of inches because there's no gravity, so they stretch out. But as soon as they get back down to gravity, back to normal.
And one thing I did learn, we were hanging out with a gal who works at NASA now, and she was like, when they come back, actually they have to be in a specific area because their bones and everything is so like.
Yeah, they gotta get they need muscle mass and all that has to get back to normal. There's actually a flight doc on board with us while I forgot the name of the vehicle, but it elevates up kind of like an accordion and goes up where it can get to the door of the shuttle when they land. And
Yeah.
we're waiting on that vehicle for them. Sometimes you have to put them in a wheelchair to roll them over to the chair to unsuit them. Sometimes they drape over your shoulders because they're weak. I mean, they've been in space for almost 2 weeks, and their
Right.
body's adjusting to coming back down to gravity and stuff, and not being able. I mean, they exercise and stuff, but it's still not the same as when you're in gravity exercising, you know.
Right. And you have to exercise.
So some people come off really sick, throwing up and blue around the gills and green around the gills, and then some people walk off like it was nothing. Like Mae Jemison, she walked off like she hadn't even been to space, girl.
So that's a story. There you go. Mae Jemison
Didn't affect her at all. She walked up that. I'm like, first I was like, where is she? She's one to laugh because I'm waiting for her. And she walked right off. Hey, like, hey, just every day. I do this all the time. That's what I do.
Right.
Wasn't sick at all. Didn't throw up, nothing.
Worked it.
And you got the other guy over there looking all pitiful.
The woman, our species is a little superior. Just
oh, I know something he may not know, that the liquid cooling garment that I told you about that they wear under their suit with the little tubes in the cold water. They got that idea from race car drivers, because the race car drivers wear it because it gets so hot in their cockpit going 200 and something miles an hour, you know. So yeah,
that material, because one thing that Patrick is, he when he's in there and we're performing, he's
hot.
Summer, it is hot, and I've been
I can imagine
light suits that have that dry fit component.
Mm-hmm.
Something I need to look into.
Yeah. And then in the SR-71, when they flew, they didn't wear diapers, even though that's the same suit. Oh, and that's the other thing. The astronauts, the NASA got the suit from the Air Force. It wasn't, people tend to think it's the other way around because that's NASA. And like, no, the Air Force had the suits first. You can look at some of the older pictures, you'll see kind of a goldish colored suit instead of orange. Right. That was the original pressure suit from the Air Force. That's what the astronauts were wearing at first. And then they went to blue, and then they went to orange.
Wow.
I don't know what genius thought of blue. You laying in the water, just blending right in.
Orange.
So that, and then the way the SR-71, they couldn't, of course, in the U2, they didn't wear a diaper, but they had a urinary collection device, which was like a huge condom. So they'd come walking out the dressing room with their long johns on, this big thing flopping in.
Fun fact.
And so the guys, the way you fit it, they have to fit it is they have to cut it to where it fit the size of them.
Right.
So, they come out joking, talking about, y'all had to cut it all the way down to the base because, like, whatever.
Okay. I love it. I love these impromptu.
Oh, yeah, they walk out and it's just bouncing when they come out. It's just, no, these are the pilots. These are the pilots. Oh, the astronauts wear a diaper.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, there you go.
So these guys, yeah. And so they would have to hook it up inside the suit, and then it would go out the one of the pockets of the suit and go down into the aircraft. And it would just, when they urinate, it'll just be flapping out. Just you don't go outside the aircraft.
I don't think you have to go in the bathroom. Like,
so now they ate tube food too. So that made, I don't see how they did that and not have to get a tore up stomach or something.
Right, because you're going so fast.
Pilot have a, yeah. In the U2 and the SR. And the U2's flying for like 8-9 hours, girl. So they really, SR fly about 2.5 hours and come right back.
Right.
But the U2, they fly all day. And they're eating tube food, it's like, it looked like a big toothpaste tube. It's like like baby food kind of. But that's what they eat. They had a little hole in their helmet where they can stick this straw that's hooked onto the tube food in there and go right to their mouth. And that's the same way with their like Gatorade. They drank a lot of Gatorade
Okay.
to stay hydrated, of course. And then so it's same thing. It was a bottle and it had a long tube that you stick right through the little hole in the helmet. And that's how they drank and ate while they were flying for that long time.
That is crazy. You know, one thing people do ask Patrick too is like, what do you eat? Because he does a lot of flying in his pits, and it's like you can't really pack anything. And it's like he small snacks. Sometimes he gets bananas. So it's interesting to hear like the different, like, I guess, menu items at certain
points. Yeah. The tube food, one of the favorites, of course, applesauce, because applesauce is gonna taste like applesauce regardless.
Right.
And then with the astronauts, of course, they pick out like meals. They come in like a month ahead of time or so, and they pick out food for the whole 2 weeks they're going to be gone.
Right.
And one of the favorite things is shrimp cocktail because it had the little spicy sauce with it.
Oh, yum.
They couldn't take regular salt and pepper because the grains could get into the components and stuff. Yeah. So they take liquefied salt and pepper. They take lots of hot sauce because they lose some of their sense of taste while they're in space. So they use a lot of hot sauce. And also they can't take bread because of the crumb factor. It might get all into the components. They can only take tortillas. So any sandwich or any kind of bread thing they're going to do, they have to use tortillas.
Yes. I could live off of tortillas in space.
Yeah, they eat a lot of tortillas.
I love it. That is
a lot of things to choose from. They have a lot of items to choose from. It's not just, 4 things. Here you go.
Yeah. And these are things that I actually learned when I went to the Space Center too. They were talking about items and how they stick to the certain components. So for those of you listening, definitely go to the Houston Space Center or Cape Canaveral. Space
Center Houston is amazing. Anytime you're in town, and I go and I still find something new to look at. And I've been a bunch of times.
I love it. We had so much fun. We're like, oh my gosh, like we could live there if we could, but hopefully we'll be back soon. And hopefully we could visit it with you. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, let me know ahead of time. My husband works over at the pool where the astronauts train. And so he could give you guys a tour over there, but you let me know about a week ahead of time.
Oh, I'll definitely.
If you guys find out you're coming to Houston.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I'd love to interview your husband if he does.
Oh, he's awesome. He worked in the suit lab. He worked on the tools that they hook onto the white suit. He worked in, and then he decided, I'm gonna go be a diver. And so he scuba dives and he actually videotapes them while they're training underwater. Because, that's as close as they can get to weightlessness environment. So while they're training, he records them. And they watch the video later to see what they did right, wrong, or what,
Love it.
So yeah, he's got the coolest job.
Oh, okay. I'm definitely gonna when we get online, I'm gonna get his info.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Amazing, that whole training component too.
Oh, yes,
I'm excited. Well, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for being on the Department of Aviation. This was so much fun, and I'm definitely gonna put your website for people to reach out, book you, to get your book. And
to book me.
Yes.
Book Shay today.
I love it. # book Shay today. And
there you go.
Social media, so they can follow you on social media as well, right?
Yes. Yes. I'm under my name, Sharon McDougle. I'm under Suit Up for Launch with Shay. I'm on TikTok, Twitter, Insta, all of it. YouTube. I'm everywhere.
And I love those earrings. I have to compliment.
You see, DC? Advertisement, girl. Make it click. Make it click with Shay.
I hope you have merch on your website too, so I'm definitely going to check it out.
No, I just bought these for myself.
Need to get
but I do have masks, when COVID was out, but some people still like them, and little tumblers, little
oh, that's so cute.
On it, and some of the pictures from the book.
I love it. Oh yes, definitely check it out. And I'm advocating putting these earrings on the site. So
I need to find somebody to make them because the place that made them, they weren't reasonable enough for me to buy a bunch of them and try to, So I need to find somebody that can make them. Everybody loves them. I wear them every time I'm in an airport. They're like, oh my, they always get people talking. They're like, oh, those are so cute. Like, that's my book. Oh, that's a book. Yes, look.
Amazing.
Conversation starter. And then next thing you know, I sold a book.
Exactly. Well, I love it. I love everything you do.
Everything
about you. I'm going to definitely let Patrick know that this conversation was amazing. Hopefully we can.
I hate he missed it.
I know you missed it, babe. You were flying. You were working. Oh, I love it. Well, thank you again. For those of you listening, definitely follow Shay, follow her on social media, and I will definitely put the links. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was amazing. I had a blast-tastic time.
Oh,